So I want to talk about 1E, Danielson 1E. I'm continuing my series on the Danielson Framework. So 1E, designing coherent instruction. Coherent is the key word here. Like, your lesson has to make sense. And the way it makes sense is if it is based on everything that you've done to prepare for 1A. So you know your curriculum, you've got your data on your students, you know what activities you're going to plan for that lesson, and whatever your teaching point is, it's going to come full circle when you go to assess those kids. So this is like soup to nuts. This is the base. 1E is the base of your entire teaching. Okay? You have to have a coherent lesson. It's a lesson that makes sense. If you start throwing in things in the middle of a lesson that don't make sense and don't match any of the curriculum pieces, or it matches some of the curriculum, you're on the fast track to developing. So first thing with 1E, how are you going to design a coherent lesson? First thing is, you are going to show the kids an example of what it is you're going to teach them. You are going to demonstrate it. So a demo and a model, those are not the same. A demo is going to be an exemplar of the end goal, so that students know exactly what they're working toward during your lesson. Okay? You're going to start out saying, this is the teaching point, this is what you're learning today, so that they have a reference point. That's going to stay up. Then you're going to have up the poster, the anchor chart of an example of what they are going to be learning, what they're working toward, like the actual activity. Then you're going to launch into your actual modeling of that activity and how to complete that activity and that learning goal. You're going to model it. The kids are not doing anything right now but listening. Okay? You could throw in a warm-up activity if you want to. I would say that the warm-up is the only thing that's not necessary. Unless maybe you're doing math, something like that. Okay? But I wouldn't worry about a warm-up activity. I would do teaching point, your demo's up, launch into the lesson. Launching into the lesson is your modeling, your discussion, and the activities that you're going to give the kids that are differentiated. I wouldn't even say differentiated, because I feel like education has moved away from differentiating as much, but scaffolding. Heavier on the scaffolding than the differentiation. So what do I mean by that? With differentiating, you're thinking about low, middle, high. Your low kids, your middle kids, your high kids. Let me each give them an activity that matches the teaching point, but that also they can access. And what that really means is that you're kind of dumbing it down a little bit. So you don't want that aspect of it. I feel like education has been moving away from that, right? You can do some of it, not as much as scaffolding. When you're scaffolding, you're adding into the lesson. How can you beef up that lesson so that a kid can access it while still being on grade level and without dumbing it down? That's what you have to think about, right? What can you add? So this brings me into a nice segue into the science of reading. The science of reading, which education folks are heavy on right now, is all about the scaffolding and adding in, so that you meet kids where they are, right? So I'll give you an example of the science of reading. You're front-loading vocabulary, okay? You're front-loading vocabulary, you're talking about the words that are going to be in that lesson. It's very different from what Teachers College used to be. Teachers College was, let's just tuck in. Let's tuck in what the kids need to know, and they'll pick it up along the way. They'll figure it out. That might happen. You know, if you're lucky, that will happen. I'm not against that, but you have to know your kids, right? Your lesson is a testament to what you know about your kids and about teaching and about pedagogy, right? Everything that you know from 1A is going to come right across in the lesson. So your teaching point, you demo, here's your example, this is your demonstration of what we're doing. You're modeling and getting to that activity, and then you are launching into, okay, let's do some examples. I'm going to model, we'll do some examples together, and then I'm going to give you your activity. Let's go. While your kids are doing those activities based on your teaching point, it has to match. The activity has to match what you just taught. If it doesn't, that is incoherent. That is incoherent. I've seen it too many times. You're giving kids work that doesn't even match anything that you taught. That's incoherent. It doesn't make sense. It's developing. Okay? So the work that matches, that's what they're going to do. It matches your teaching point. It matches the demo, the demonstration that you just showed them, the anchor chart. Okay? That's going to be their end goal. And every time they need something, every time they have to look up and have a reference point, they're looking at that exemplar. They're looking at that demo, and they're looking at the work that you left up on your smartboard that you guys did together, that you modeled. That's the second thing they're looking at. Okay? So they have to have that, because that's going to touch on your 3D, which is your assessment, right? How do they know what they're being assessed on? You just put it up, right? That's good teaching. You just put up what they're getting assessed on, right? So you see how all of Danielson, it all flows into each other. You can't get a really good mark in one area or developing in one area without it bleeding into another area, okay? So what are you doing while the kids are doing their work? Are you at your desk on your phone? What are you doing? No, you're not at your desk on your phone, okay? You're gonna go back to your desk. Maybe you have a conference table in addition to your desk. A conference table is a lot better than your desk. You should have both, and here's why. Your desk is where you're gonna have all of your materials, your curriculum, your teacher's notebook, your pens, you know, stuff that's yours. But your table where you're going to do your conferencing, right? Your conferencing table, maybe it's a kidney table or something like that. That's where you're going to meet with kids while they're working. Have a calendar up. Have a calendar up so that each kid knows that they're going to see you on a specific day during the week. So you're going to see Bobby, Johnny, and Mary on Monday. You're going to see Shaquan, Danny, and Darren on Tuesday. You're going to see Ella, Marjona, and Karen on Wednesday. And they know that every week you're meeting with them to check in and see their progress on their learning. So while the kids are working on the work that you've given them that matches the teaching point, you're pulling the 3 kids that you have on the calendar, okay? You're pulling those kids, you're meeting with them, you're saying, okay, show me what you have so far, right? And if they're doing great, great. But you're also going to give them a next step, right? And every kid has something that they need to work on. So it might not exactly be related to that lesson for that day, but they need to work on something. Could be capitalization, could be spelling, okay? It could be putting things in chronological order, whatever it is you think they need that is related to that subject, all right? Don't start conferencing for math when you're doing ELA, right? That's incoherent. It's not gonna make sense. Okay, you're gonna get it developing. So what do you wanna do? You're gonna conference with those 3 kids that you have on the calendar. Today is Monday, great. You're meeting with the 3 kids that you have on the calendar for Monday. They know you're meeting with them. You're gonna check in on the work for the day, and you're gonna send them off with next steps. Done. If you need to practice something or model something additionally, you're gonna do it at that conference table. You're gonna send them back to your desk. Maybe you have to hold Mary back for a few more minutes. Great. Send the other 2 back, keep Mary. Okay? The following week, when you meet with them, you're following up on the next step that you gave them the last time. How are you doing on that thing that I asked you to practice? Whatever, spelling, vocabulary, I don't care what it is. All right? Something educational. Show that you know what they need, okay? Especially if any admin walks in the door. This is the process. By the time you're done with your conference and your kids are done with their work and you're circling back to now check in and do a share out, right? Get some kids up on the board or get them to come to the front of the class, right? They can peer review each other. They can turn and talk. They can have a checklist so that whoever's a fast finisher can go around checking other people, right? If we walk in and your fast finisher is playing with pencils or talking or passing notes, we're going to make a mental note of it, right? So make sure that your fast finisher has something to do. And make sure that it's not extra work, because they're not going to want to do it. A fast finisher given more work is a punishment. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to slow down, and they're not going to be the fast finisher anymore. They're going to try that maybe 2 times, and once they realize what's happening, that you're just giving them more work, they're going to stop being the fast finisher. And then you're not going to have your class helper. You're not going to have someone going around with their checklist. Okay? You're not going to show how you're meeting assessment, because students should be assessing each other. It shouldn't just be you. All right? I can't tell you how many times adults have gone around to assess. Kids don't get it. Some kids don't get it. And as soon as another kid explains it, miraculously they understand. It's crazy. That I can't explain. I can't explain that, but I know it happens because I've seen it. Teacher will go around and try and assess the kid and see and be like, oh, what happened? You know, let me show you this again. They still don't get it. And another kid will come, their age, in their class, and explain it, and they understand it better when they have another kid say it to them. Okay? So have kids assessing each other, especially your fast finishers. Okay? Those kids that you know that are not going to behave, give them a job. Oh, you're done? Make sure the pencils are sharpened, right? Do something. Go check everybody. Are you sure your answers are right? Double check them if they're right. Go check your friend's work. Swap papers. Okay? You're not going to really worry about copying right now. Okay? Because you're still teaching. Teaching is teaching. All right? It's not a test. So just let them work. Let them come to the realization of what they have wrong. If a kid gets checked by another peer and he's like, oh, I did that wrong, let me fix it. That's fine. That's great. That's what you want to be happening. Okay? This takes the burden and the heavy lift off of you and puts the onus on them to correct themselves, teach themselves, make mistakes, and try again. It's a normal process, especially if you have L's, English language learners. Let them copy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let them copy. By copying, they are learning. Don't worry about it. Okay? All right, that is all I have for today. My next video will be on the next part of Danielson, which I think we're getting into the 2s. I'm not going to do all of the 1s, but basically you should know that the component 1, the first section is all about knowing your pedagogy. Okay, so we're going to go into the 2s in my next video, I think. See you later. Have a good day.